Great, thanks, Lauren, and good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are. So I'm Chris Simpson, and I'm going to talk about mapping low-cost and open-source labs to the NICE Workforce Framework and CAE/KUs. For those of you that know me, I've been giving a talk along this theme for several years now at some of the different CAE events and NICE conferences. So it's kind of morphed a little bit. So you'll see some new stuff. This seems to be a popular topic. I've given this talk a couple times in the last month or so, and I even gave a similar talk to a digital forensics conference this week about more for kind of how industry can use these labs. So, agenda, I'll give a little bit of background of how we moved to kind of the low cost and open source labs. And I'll talk about free and low cost labs and how we use them. And then I'll get into how we're trying to track the objectives, build a way to share these objectives because uh, you'll find that there are like in the Airtable that I'll demonstrate, we've got like over 500 labs listed. We don't use them all, but trying to catalog the knowledge and skills and tasks and competencies and KUs that they meet can be a bit challenging. So my colleagues will tell you when I find a new lab, it's like a shiny object for me. So I'm always looking for new labs. So I do have to kind of throttle back a little bit to make sure I don't overdo it. But there's a ton of great labs, and I've really seen a large growth in this space. So a little bit of background. So hands-on labs, they're a critical component of any cybersecurity program, and they're a requirement to become a NSA Center of Academic Excellence. There's several ways that an organization can deliver lab content. You can develop and deploy labs on internal or outsourced infrastructure and manage it yourself. You can utilize labs from external lab providers, pay them to run the services for you. You can use free grant resource labs, which I'll talk a little bit about, or you can use free and open source labs, or obviously you can use a mix of all of these. And when we first started our master's program, we ran an internal environment, and it turned out it was pretty expensive to run. And I'll talk some more about that. So, kind of my overall goal is really, as you discover new labs, to build a database that we can share about labs that talk about their learning outcomes, the knowledge, skills, tasks they meet, KUs, and now competencies seem to be the new thing that we're exploring as a CA community. So, mapping those labs to help everybody pick and choose the labs that are most appropriate for their program. So some of the challenges of running an internal lab, so help desk, student support. I know our students tend to do a lot of their schoolwork on weekends, so you need to make sure you have that lab support available. Sometimes there can be friction between academic or a misunderstanding between academic and technical issues. So if the student is having a problem, is it they just need to clear their browser cache, or are they having trouble understanding the concept that they need to apply in that specific lab? Ticket management, things like that. So that's that was a challenge. Then admin access to labs. What kind of role does faculty have in administering the labs, and then developing the lab content. So you pay a big chunk of money up front just to build the infrastructure, and then you still got to build the labs and support them. So can be pretty pricey, which is we kind of moved more to the low cost open source model of labs. So different ways to find open source, outsourced open source labs. So word of mouth, talking to your friends and colleagues of what's out there. Textbook vendors, a lot of the vendors do provide lab resources now. Vendor booths, going to different conferences. Google, social media, seeing what other people are using. I know I'm starting to see more on LinkedIn. So you see maybe a graduate. Alumni posting some lab they used, or you see a colleague from another university posting sharing their experience. So there are some challenges of these free and low cost labs. So downtime, especially with the free labs, they don't they tend to can have downtimes, without an explanation. Although the ones that I talk about have been pretty rock solid. So support. So actually support for the low cost one isn't too bad. I've noticed a lot of the ones now they use Discord, and they have a lot of community support built in, so students can get support there, 24/7, because a lot of these labs are used worldwide. So it's kind of somebody always available on Discord. Updates. So a lot of the free and open source material isn't always updated or the most current, so that can be a bit of a challenge with some of the higher priced lab resources. You tend to get a little more updates and things like that. Although for some it doesn't really matter. So some of the Linux stuff, Linux is Linux, so there's not a lot of huge changes. No single vendor provides everything you need. That's another challenge. Um, for a lot of the lab environments, there are publicly available answers. I know some of the lab providers now, they kind of go to the model where it's retired versus active boxes. So they're pretty good at actually, they penalize people if they can figure out who's disclosing answers. So that's something I'll talk a little more about. And then mapping your courses to the lab content, right? So, like I said, not one vendor fits everything, and trying, seeing what fits, because you don't want to have 15 different providers in one class, for example. Faculty preparation. So, making sure faculty have time to use the resources. And then, the labs change, so the vendors do change their labs. And for like the free ones, you may not get a heads up on that, so that can be a bit of a challenge. Your students roll into a class, and poof, that lab is gone. So sometimes you have to adjust on the fly for that. So I'm going to talk about some of the freemium providers we use. Please note this is not an official endorsement from National University. These are just some that we've used in our program. So these are in no particular order. So we've got Immersive Labs, which I'll talk more about. They're free. They're UK based. Nice challenge from Dr. Vinny Nestler and the team out at Cal State San Bernardino. Great environment. NSF project. Over the wire, community built one. I'll talk some more details about that. PicoCTF, free one out of Carnegie Mellon. It's kind of a high school competition, but it's actually good for beginning students. I'll talk some more about that. Hack the Box, they're the freemium model. They've got some free stuff and paid stuff. I'll talk more about them. TriHackme.com. They have freemium model too. I'll talk more about them. And then kind of our latest one, Blue Team Labs. Quite honestly, in the past, it's been a bit of a challenge to find blue team type of labs. So this is a really good site. They do a lot of the incident response, security operations center, analyst, and things like that. So it's been nice. So Immersive Labs Digital Cyber Academy. It's available free to students, veterans, and the neurodivergent community. They've got questions. Question-based, virtual machine-based labs, and then scenario-based labs. And once again, they're a UK-based organization. They've got badging, large variety of topics. They go from novice to ninja, and they've got kind of a mix of knowledge and hands-on. You can do rankings. So here's a leaderboard. They rank the schools. I took this one several months ago. At that time, National University was 12th. But you can see Dakota State's on there for U.S. schools. A lot of European schools. New York University is on there, second place. So it's kind of nice if you kind of want to get your students a little motivated to pump up your school score. They've got a variety of difficulty levels, and it's nice because they give kind of estimated times to do it. You can see when they're published, so that kind of comes in handy. This is what their environment looks like. So once you start up a lab, you'll get a virtual machine with kind of a task list on the right of what you have to do, and then you fill in the answers. And on the top right where it says info, you can get more information about that scenario and get a network a diagram if there's more than one machine. And so basically the students just fill in the blanks there, and it'll go green. They'll get a green check if they get the answer right. So pretty easy to use. These are pretty rock solid. They spin up pretty quick in our experience. So you can see they've got a wide variety of topics, and this screenshot is a little bit old, so they actually have more topics now. So I've kind of got a screen capture here, so you can see they've got different categories. I'll hit fundamentals, defensive, cloud security, and like I said, that's growing. They do beginner, intermediate. They've got some threat hunting content, digital forensics, example here, packet analysis, incident response, log analysis. And you can see it's all web-based, so you don't have to worry about virtual machines, anything like that. The snort ones are kind of neat. You got to build, you make a snort rule. It's kind of it's not a complex exercise, but it's a nice way to introduce snort. So you can see a click there. I'll do a quick, you can start or continue the lab, depending on what you do. And you can see, I kind of did this in real time, so it spun up pretty quick. I didn't advance the thing, but you can see getting a virtual machine that quick, and then you can throw the answers in there. I had one answer that I had already done, so that's pretty nice way to have a lab environment. This one's a Linux machine, and you've got to go through and make some snort rules. So it's kind of a nice exercise. Got a PCAP file that you run through there. And like I said, this is the info section. So this really kind of tells you how to go through the lab without giving you everything. So the students do have to think a little bit about how to solve the problem. Sometimes they may have to do a little bit of research on the side too. And they'll have relevant links and things like that. They have some reporting you can do. You can break it up by different categories. So you can see when I took this screenshot, I was level 37. I get so many points to go to the next level. You can also have different lab areas that you take a look at. So you can see this is some of my progress on some of the different labs. You can download an activity report. So this comes in handy for resume bullets, right? So employers want to know what students have done, what they can do. So that's kind of nice for them to be able to share out, what they, their progress, and the great interview topics too. So I think this kind of comes in handy too, and it's all kind of bundled there. They also map their labs to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is kind of neat. So here the shaded in blue means they're mapped. Pink is not completed, and then white is no labs mapped. So it's kind of nice. So you can pick your favorite MITRE ATT&CK category. So command line. So you can see there's some examples there: PowerShell, Empire, and things like that. And so some of the like a drive-by for initial access, cross-site scripting. Uh, um, Directory and file discovery kind of the labs. So that's another nice way if you're teaching the MITRE ATT&CK framework. You can map some labs to that. So another one that I like to use, and this one's really good for beginners. It's called Over the Wire. It's community built labs. They've got different games and levels. It's all command line based. So I know some of our students, they fear the command line. So it's a good way to easily get them used to the command line. And here I'm going to highlight Bandit. It's great for learning Linux, but they have some of these other ones are really good for like buffer overflows, exploiting C, exploiting Linux and things like that. So it is a pretty wide variety. There's a similar one. This is Linux. There's actually another one out called Under the Wire, and that's for PowerShell, which is kind of nice if you want to teach PowerShell. So here's what the website looks like. So they've got different games on the left side there. So I'll show you Bandit here. And basically you just go from level to level and work your way up to the highest level. I'll have students like for Linux go through like I think about level 15 for Bandit. And you typically SSH in, and I'll do a demo here. And initially they'll give you a password, a user ID for a level, and then you have to discover the password for the next level. So here's a Bandit demo. So basically, I'm gonna SSH in. They do use a weird port, so 2220. That can be kind of a gotcha here. But I'm gonna go from level 0 to level 1, so I'll hop in here. I'll SSH in over the right port. I'll use the password they give me, and the password there is Bandit 0 for that one. And then let me switch back to the terminal here. So to go from level 0 to level 1, I've got to find the password for the next level. So let me clear the screen here. And I'll just do a quick ls to see what's there. Oh, a README file, right? So how do you open a README file? Do a cat, and boom, that gives me the password to the next level. So I can just copy that, and I'll break the connection, and then I'll hop into the next level, and then it'll tell you what you need to solve for the next level. I'll kill the connection here, and I'll SSH in. And you can see I'll change the Bandit 0 to Bandit 1 because that's the user ID for the next level. And I'll paste in the password that I just captured from that previous level. And I'll hop in, and I won't show the answer to this one, but basically you just got to find the password for the next level. So really, that one's really good for introducing Linux. Um, PicoCTF, I find this useful for students that are brand new to cybersecurity and need some basics. It's designed by Carnegie Mellon. It's designed for high school students, but it's great for anyone new to cybersecurity or someone that might just be interested in the field. So I'll do a quick demo here. So you log in. They've got a gym. You can see they've got different types of things that you can solve. So some easy stuff, right? So, convert different number, binary to decimal, decimal to hex, hexadecimal, so on and so forth. So that's kind of nice to learn. You can see they've got some web exploitation, reverse engineering, forensics, and things like that there too, which can come in handy. So I think I open up a forensics one here. Yeah, so you got to download. I think this one you got to download an image, and then it's a steganography. You got to see if you can get the flag for that one, and then you submit the flag. So this is another good way for students to learn. For web exploitation, they actually got websites that you can see if you can log in. See if the passwords are hidden and things like that. And so here, I think you got to do a little social engineering on this website. And general skills. They got just different topics. So Netcat, right? So that's a nice tool used for pen testing. So you can hop on there. They've got a site set up, and you've got to hop in and do the Netcat. And PicoCTF is a free one. So Hack the Box. So they have a freemium model, so they've got some free stuff, or you can pay. What I like about Hack the Box is they've got vulnerable hosts that are active and retired. The retired ones, you can actually go research the solutions, and that's a good way for the students to start, do a walkthrough and then make them do the active boxes. But they've got challenges, scenarios, and things like that. They've got a ranking system, and they run from beginner to expert. So here's just an example. They got forensics challenges you can do. You download PCAP files or images or memory images and things like that, which is pretty good. So this is what the machines look like. And what's nice is you click to start, and you stop. You submit the flag once you get the appropriate flag, either admin level or user level. And here you've got two options. So you can VPN in. So you can download the VPN client and VPN in from your own virtual machine. So for Kyle, I saw your question there about labs or VMs. If you like students to build a VM, they can build a Cali and then VPN in. And they also have a web-based Cali attack box that you can use too. So you can use either or, which is kind of nice. And then you can rank the boxes. You can restart. And you can see they've got active versus retired machines. We use a mix of these in our class. They have a dedicated lab environment that we use. For this one, no, you can't build a custom network, but in TriHackme, you can a little bit. I'll talk more when I get to TriHackme. Uh, a recent addition to Hack the Box is they've got Cyber Mayhem server siege, so your students can battle each other out. We tested a little bit; it was a little bit clunky, but that might be something that evolves in the future. Um, and they've got Fortress, which is nice. So companies will actually, if you break into the box, it's a way to get a job at a company. I think these are European based, but it's a pretty neat idea, I thought. What's really nice about the Hack the Box is there's some really good videos out there for students to watch. So this one gentleman, IPsec, he does really great tutorials on the retired boxes. And on his website here, this IPsec rocks. So let's say you want to figure out a lab to do, like buffer overflow, right? So I type in buffer overflow here, and that shows you the different boxes that have buffer overflow, which is kind of neat. I'll do RPC as another example. And so you can see the different boxes that use RPC. You can click to his video and apply that. So that can help you map some of the objectives and things like that. So next up is TriHackme, another European-based organization. So TriHackme, they're community-built labs. They've got a variety of different topics, and they have a concept of a room. So you can see here, like there's a Learn Linux room in the screenshot there on the right, and then that room will have a set of tasks. And what's nice is you can build your own VM and then upload it, and you can customize rooms and build your own learning paths. This is a new feature I'm still kind of exploring, but it's pretty good if you want to customize. So this is what their what a room looks like. And basically, if it requires a virtual machine, you can just click deploy. It'll deploy the virtual machine. They offer an a virtual attack box, or you can VPN in, use an OpenVPN from your own VM. And then you put in the answer and you click submit. And it's kind of nice too for the format. They'll tell you how many characters, so that can help with typos and things like that. They have learning paths too that are really good. So students can pick a learning path. So I'll call up complete beginner here. And you can see they've got these different rooms that they go through for this path. What I've been doing is, if for students entering our master's program without a lot of experience, they have a pre-cyber path, and I'll send them a code before they start the program, and I'll have them go through that. That's been pretty successful in helping students get up to speed. Or quite honestly, if they feel overwhelmed, we'll say maybe you should take some community colleges classes first, or some bachelor level classes first. And that's an example of the Cali and the attack box that's web-based there. I just showed on the screen. They map to some certifications. They've got a ton of different modules. There's always growing. They also have some networks. So Throwback is basically like doing a pen test. We just had a capstone group do that. They had some good feedback on that. Kind of simulates a pen test in an Active Directory environment. They do have a battle, King of the Hill. Haven't tried this one yet, but basically you can do a private game where students go up against each other. And then this is the pre-security path that I mentioned that I've been sharing with our students. And you can see, 441 public rooms, and they're a mix. So some of the rooms are free, and then some you have to pay the monthly fee. Blue Team Labs. So this is kind of like Hack the Box for blue teams. So they're community built. They've got a variety of different topics. They do have the same room concept, and they've got different ranks and badges, but they've got memory forensics, network forensics, incident response, security operations. And so here's just one of the examples. So here you got to figure out what happened to this computer. You've got they give you a traffic capture. You got to do the IP port, and you just put the answers here in this question mark, and you'll get a little screenshot when it's done. And they've got a leaderboard and things like that. They're coming up with new challenges, and they do the retire and active thing too. So the retired ones will have answers out. I just found them a couple months ago, but they're really growing real quick with a lot of different labs and things like that. So another option, there's actually some really cool DevOps deployment types of labs out there. So if you've got cloud resources or even your own internal environment, you can use tools, Ansible, Terraform, things like that to deploy these labs out there. A lot of them come with pre-built data, which is really good. These are just 3 examples. So Detection Lab, you can deploy this with a variety of different tools, either in an ESX environment or in a cloud environment. It's pretty good. They've got Windows boxes with event collectors, a Splunk forwarder. They've got OS query, Sysmon, and things like that. You can manage it all. If you do run these in the cloud, they do get expensive. Like some of these can be like $100 an hour because there's some pretty beefy machines if you're running in the cloud environment. So use caution if using these. Project Mortar. So this is pre-recorded data from different types of events. It's a pretty cool project. They've got some data sets that you can just download too, and they have a network that you can deploy using some of the DevOps tools. Either to, I think you can do ESX2 with them, but they've also got Azure. Once again, same pricing concerns apply. This is a neat project out of Syracuse. Um, Basically, he took a lot of the different open source vulnerable machines and attack machines out there and built a Terraform based AWS Cloud you could spin up. Once again, this one is really pricey, but it's got a variety of different tools and it can be a little complicated to manage. But if you've got some infrastructure and resources to support that, I'd encourage you to look at that. Uh, One of my favorites is Nice Challenge. They've got an excellent set of challenges that are already mapped to the Nice framework. It's free. Uh, I think they're going to more of an on-demand model. I saw some emails recently. I haven't been on there in a while, but this is run by Dr. Benny Nessler and his team out of Cal State San Bernardino. And they replicate a work environment, and students have to solve tickets and stuff. So it's a realistic environment, and they've done a good job at making sure the answers don't get leaked out. So it is a challenge for students to solve these. No pun intended. All right. So I've highlighted some of the different ones that are out there. So mapping labs to objectives, right? So there's a ton of content out there, but as educators, we like to map to course learning outcomes in our program, weekly learning outcomes. We need to map to the NICE framework. We need to map to KUs. So trying to have a good picture of what's out there. So we've been experimenting with a tool called Airtable. Airtable, think of it as kind of a cross between an online spreadsheet and SQL database, but you don't have to do a lot of the design stuff, back-end design stuff. It's just kind of always available. So we've been doing a couple of student projects, mapping some of the TriHackme labs to the nice framework. So this is what Airtable looks like. And so you can have different views. You can see I've got different tables along the top here. So this is just an example of work roles. I'll run the video here in a second, and you can see what they look like. So I've got the work roles as an example, and you can link these together with each other. What makes it kind of nice. So these are all the tasks in the NICE framework, all the skills in the NICE framework, and map deck to some of the work roles. We threw abilities in there. I know those. I think might be going away, but we got specialty areas and the different categories from the NICE framework. Uh, and we're trying to experiment with some of the competitions too. And so here's just a couple I did for NCL for some of their labs. And you can see you've got the different kind of blocks in here, but you can see the display is a little bit wonky here, to be honest. So I'll show you what we come up with. So here, let me pause this for a second here. So here you can see we've got the lab names, and then these are what our students started mapping these specific labs uh, to the nice framework. So you can see task. Once again, it's kind of hard to read this, right? So what is T0010? I know some people might have the nice framework memorized, but there's a lot out there. So you can see how some of that mapping works. And this is another view format. And you can see it's okay, but it's not a great view. But you can see all the information is in there, but it's still a little bit clunky. Um, oops, oops. All right. So, like I said, that's a bit clunky, and I can make those views public. So if somebody wants to take a look at the data there, I'm happy to share that out. But you know, as I've been given this presentation, I've been trying to think of a better way to share kind of the data and make it easier for people to select labs. So I'm always looking for new tools. Like I said in the beginning, I'm kind of a shiny object person. I know my colleagues are laughing now when they hear me say that. Uh, so I'm always looking for ways to collect data and information. So Obsidian, I've kind of stumbled on Obsidian. It's a multi-platform note-taking app with a wiki-like capability. So you can do backlinks and things like that, and it's based on a Markdown. So if you've never heard of Markdown, so think of Markdown as kind of a text language that allows you just to really do easy formatting. It's kind of like HTML, but not as complicated, or it's a lot easier to read. Um, and so, I've got all this data in Airtable, but what's an easy way to make it pull it in? So here, I just did an example, and this is all kind of brand new, so it's not a final product yet. But here's our Cyber 606 class, right? And I pulled in to Obsidian the different labs that we use, and I had a Python script build kind of the backend data. So basically, you build a view in Airtable, you export it to a CSV. You've got to do a little bit of cleanup on it to make it look nice. Then there's a Python script that I found that creates a markdown file for each row that's in that CSV file. And so if you organize it right, it'll pull it right into these files, and you can have it. It'll pre-do the links if you format it right, so the links are built in. So you don't really have to hand jam in all the different labs, and then you copy that into Obsidian. And so this is a screenshot of the left side of the screen. So you can see I just did a demo of some of our courses. And then there's a lab description folder too. And so like I showed you, this is what a course page looks like. So you can see these are some of the labs. And then if you click on that, if you click on like intro to incident response, that'll take you to the lab page. And this is what a lab page looks like. Um, and so you see the three hash marks there. That's actually the markdown formatting. If you go to regular view, it just makes it bold. It makes it a heading three uh, for three hash marks. And this is a lab description. This is how our students rated it. And then I did tags to let me know what lab provider does this. And what's nice is you can search on tags. So if you want to look up all the TriHackme tags, right, you can find all the different labs that are TriHackme. And just for reference, right now we've got about 500 rows of labs in the Airtable, and that doesn't cover everything. And some we don't use. A student actually built that for us, and they pulled in a bunch of labs for us to make it easy. And then if you go to a lab, let's map those labs to task, right? Uh, and if you click on that link, it takes you to what that specific task is. And if I wanted to, I could actually import. It could pre-build. It could say what that task is too. Like I said, I'm still kind of experimenting with this, but it's kind of neat, right? So you want to see what tasks you can do. It makes it easy. And here's what's a real uh, powerful feature, though. It's got graph view. So you can see here, here's a lab core Windows processes. And if you look, all the spokes, those are the different tasks that it maps to. So that's kind of neat. And it's actually a huger screen. I just got a small screenshot there, but it's nice. It's nice because you can, if you want to see a lab, what task it does, it makes it easy. And you can actually do, so like this is a visualization of my course, and then all the different labs that it maps to. And you could also do like a task one. I don't have a lot of tasks mapped yet, but you could have like eventually there would be like a task 0203, for example, might spoke out to different labs. So it is kind of nice, and it is pretty easy to populate once you kind of get the Airtable right. So that's kind of where I'm at now for this. I can always use helpers. So, I'll have my contact information here at the end. But, if you have students looking for a student capstone project, I'm happy. I've got a little bit of money to pay for monthly subscriptions for some of these services. So I'm always looking for, ways to help kind of build up the library, so to speak, and do that. So you can reach out to me for this. I hope you found this useful. And I've always got to give a shout out to my friend and colleague, Dr. Nancy Jones. So we help with the SoCal Cyber Cup. The SoCal Cyber Cup is a high school, middle school, and community college cyber competition in Southern California. And last year, or the year before last, we were able to get a DoD Cyber Scholarship Capacity Building Grant. Thanks, NSA. And part of that grant, we had Dr. Jones. She built a coach and mentor training LMS portal for us using Canvas, and that is free and openly available to anybody that wants to use it. She's got it set up so you can copy it into your own Canvas and change it all you want. So if you're interested in this, reach out to me and I'll connect you with Dr. Jones. But it's a really great project, and we're always looking for help on the project too. So there's my contact, and I'll feel free to unmute if you want to ask a question or pop something in the chat. I did share a PDF of the slides with Lauren, but I have, if you want the videos that are embedded, email me and I'll send you a Dropbox link. I don't like to put that out publicly just in case. But I'm happy to share that with you if you send me a note. If you find labs that you like, I'm always looking for new labs. It's my shiny object. I'm happy to kick the tires on them. So.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was great information to share with the community. There were a couple questions that came in. I think you might have answered this one. Can you confirm that Immersive Labs is free?
Yeah, so for Immersive Labs, you need a .edu. As far as I know, unless it's changed, I logged in last week because I'm using it in the class I'm teaching this month. So I did log in. You don't get their full lab content though, so you may see a lab and you don't get access to it. So they do limit the contact, and they have a program for veterans, .edu, and the neurodivergent community.
All right, next question. Would you recommend building your own VM for these labs, or do you prefer utilizing the VM within the web interface?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple ways to approach it. I think it's always a good experience for students to build their own VMs. But for different students, there may be some resource restrictions, right? Maybe they don't have access. Maybe all I have is a Chromebook or something like that. So, you want to balance that. And maybe, initially do some of the web-based ones and then migrate them over to their own VM. Like I mentioned, TriHackme and Hack the Box. You can either use their web-based VM or VPN in via your own virtual machine. Blue Team Labs, for some of the labs, you do need to download files and use those on your own host. So that is something to consider. But yeah, I think it's always good to have students build a VM as long as they've got the resources to support that. And I know many universities give VMware licenses to students and things like that.
All right, next question. Can one build a custom network?
Yeah, so in the TriHackme, you can build virtual machines, and I think you can do more than one, but I don't know off the top of my head. You would have to ask them. Actually, for Hack the Box, you can submit challenges, and same for Blue Team Labs. You can actually build a challenge and submit it to them too. It is a public one. Yeah.
Okay.
I see a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, there were a couple questions in regards to receiving the presentation and also the recording. So just so that everyone knows, the recording and all the slides for today will be available on the CAE community website following the presentation today under the resources section. Yeah. Does anybody you know or work with do competitive hacking from a quote unquote school team aspect on these platforms? If so, how has their experience been with it? And would you recommend a school to get that going if they have not already?
Yeah, that's a great question, Darcel. So our cyber team uses these platforms. It's a great way. Uh, our students tend to be a little older. I think our average age is 33, so they tend to be a little more hesitant to do challenges and competitions. So we'll have them use TriHackme. PicoCTF is another great one. National Cyber League, is another a good one, especially with their gym. That's good to use. So it is a good experience. And I know our cyber team. Sometimes they'll do pre-assignments, right? So if you want to participate in a competition, you've got to be able to do a couple things ahead of time. So it's a good way if you've got a mix of experience to kind of level set for your team. Nice challenge is good for CCDC preparation. Hack the Box is good for CP collegiate pen test competition. So definitely a useful tool. And what I've noticed too, sometimes they kind of get the bug, right? So you get them in Pico CTF or some of these easier ones. We've got the CAE competition that's coming up too. That's available for registration. That's another way because a lot of the students, once you kind of pull them in a little bit, they're gonna really enjoy it and take advantage of those.
All right. The next question, everyone's giving you kudos on here. Great presentation.
Yeah, Cali or Parrot, that could be fighting words to some people there, Kyle. So people have their own preferences for different distributions, right? So yeah.
All right, let's see if there's any more questions that came in. I don't see any more questions. If you have any other here, Cali or Parrot or both.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big debate, right? That maybe we should have a challenge at the next CAE on-site get together. We could have a some type of match, Cali or Parrot, or pick your favorite distribution.
The next question, do you have a set of links to these lab sites? Oh, yes. Do you have a set of links to these lab sites?
Yeah, so if you download the PDF, I've got the links all right there. And actually, I think I might be able to, let me stop sharing. I might be able to paste them just in chat here real quick. I'm not sure how it'll come out if you want to grab them real quick. Yeah, there you go. There are the links from the slides. I think I've got everything uh, captured and a couple additional ones.
Okay, thank you.
And that's on my list of things to do is add this to our center website to, publish some of these links.
So yes, the slides will be included on the website for that question. The next question, I know that you mentioned some starter labs for beginners, but do any of them teach you methodology, or is that something that you develop over time through practicing?
Yeah, great question. So what I would say is for Hack the Box, if you watch those IPsec videos, he does a methodology as he breaks into the boxes for his demonstrations on the retired boxes. So that's a good way to teach the student both kind of the methodology and kind of the tool use and application. Not so much in the blue team labs yet. I haven't seen they're relatively new, so they don't always. They're not necessarily going through like a SOC analyst process. Like I'm teaching a network forensics class this month, so I've been trying to instill the method to the students. And what I do is for blue team labs, I say solve the labs, but then explain your methodology on how you did it based on what we've talked about in class. So I kind of force them to do it. I got a feeling some of them probably just solve it and then do it backwards. But if they want to be a good analyst, you really have got to have a good process down to be a good analyst.
Okay. Any additional questions for Chris?
Yeah, so podcast. So yeah, so There's Security Weekly from Paul.com is a good one. Um, let's see, I'm just looking down at my iPhone here. Security Now on the Twit Network is a good one. Um, Purple Squad Security is good, and there's another one. Hold on, we had one of the podcasters was on our advisory board. Let me find the name here. SANS has a couple good certifications on. I'm sorry, podcast on careers too. Digital Forensic Survival Podcast is a good one. Yeah, Dark Knight Diaries, like somebody mentioned. Breaking Down Security Podcast is a pretty good one too, especially for beginners.
All right.
And Nancy, if you're still here, if you want to paste in the link to the LMS, if you think that would be helpful, that'd be great too.
Okay, so I don't see any additional questions. Chris, thank you so much. This was great information. We appreciate you participating. I failed to mention in the beginning, you are from National University. So again, thank you for your partnership. We appreciate all that you do for the CAE community. Again, thank you for participating today, everyone. If you, again, please feel free to join the monthly, let me go ahead and put this slide up so you guys can have it. Our monthly tech talks and our forums. So our next CAE forum will be on December 1st. And that will be from, again, 1 until 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, is the first Wednesday of every month. And then we also have our Tech Talk coming up in a couple weeks. So be on the lookout for those notices. Again, thank you so much, Stan and Chris, for your presentation today. And thank you everyone for participating. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.